Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Amanda waited for Daniel to come home like someone waiting for the last piece of a puzzle to finish something that was already decided. He opened the door with fatigue on his shoulders, his tie loosened, and his eyes searching for peace. He found his wife sitting at the table, arms crossed, her face too serious to be just tired. He realized right away that something was wrong. Amanda asked to talk. It wasn't the first time they'd had one of those serious conversations, but there was something different this time. She got straight to the point. She said she wanted a divorce. She didn't ask for time, mention a crisis, or suggest therapy. She simply stated firmly that she wanted to separate. Daniel froze for a second. His heart raced, but his face remained calm, as if his body was delayed in understanding what he had just heard. A heavy silence settled between them. He pulled out a chair and sat down slowly, looking at Amanda as if searching for a reason to believe this was just a venting moment. But she was firm, her posture the stance of someone who had thought everything through. It wasn't an emotional outburst. It was a plan. Not knowing what to say immediately, Daniel took a deep breath. He told her he loved her, and that if any part of her still remembered the life they had built together, the sleepless nights with their young daughters, the trips to visit her parents, the late nights when he covered her with a blanket on the couch, then she should look at all that before moving forward. But Amanda seemed strange, almost mechanical. She said the problem wasn't him. He had always been a good father, a good husband, a decent man. But something inside her had changed. And as unfair as it sounded, she needed to follow a new path. Daniel felt his throat tighten. Still, he managed to keep his voice steady. He said that, as painful as it was, he would respect her decision, that he wouldn't make a scene or start a legal battle. Everything would be done with dignity, especially for the sake of their daughters. Amanda seemed relieved to hear that. It was as if she had expected resistance, and when she didn't find it, a small crack opened for guilt to creep in. She mentioned she had talked a lot with Chloe, her longtime friend, who also happened to be a divorce lawyer. That made Daniel frown. The phone calls, the meetings she had, just with the girls, everything started to make sense. She had already been preparing the ground. From there, the conversation turned to the process. Amanda mentioned the mandatory 90-day legal separation period before the final divorce. She explained that during this time, each of them could date other people without it being considered cheating. Daniel found the idea uncomfortable, but he just nodded. It felt like being in a bad dream, where you hear absurd things and can't react properly. Still, he wanted to understand the rules. He asked if they would still live in the same house during this time, how they would handle the kids, who would talk to them, how they would split bills, and what they would do with the car that was in both their names. Amanda suggested he find a place close to work, something practical, since she would have primary custody of the children, at least at the beginning. Daniel agreed, but insisted he would never be an absent father. He requested to continue having dinner with the girls on Wednesdays and Sundays, to maintain some emotional routine for them. He also spoke about the importance of explaining everything to the girls carefully so they wouldn't feel any guilt. Amanda listened but seemed disconnected, as if she had rehearsed the conversation dozens of times and now just wanted it to end. At one point, Daniel asked what was really going on. If there was another man, if she was in love. Amanda looked away and said it didn't matter. The decision was about her, about the life she felt wasn't hers anymore. That was worse than a confirmation. He knew Amanda well enough to know what that look meant. Even without hearing the confession, he felt the impact of a betrayal that might never be spoken aloud. Still, he didn't attack her. He said that if she believed this was best for her happiness, then they should do it properly. But she needed to understand that decisions like this came with a price. That no matter how modern the discourse of emotional freedom was, there were 2 children in the middle. 2 girls who still believed their mom and dad were forever. Amanda fell silent. For the first time in the conversation, she seemed to hesitate, as if her conviction had given way to doubt, but she didn't back down. She only said it was too late. Daniel, drained of energy to argue, stood up and went to the bedroom. He sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the picture frame next to the lamp. It was an old photo from their vacation in Santa Monica. Everyone smiling, hair blowing in the wind, with the ocean as an improvised backdrop. It was the image of a life he believed was alive until just hours ago. Now it was just a record of something that, by all appearances, Amanda wanted to erase. He returned to the living room and asked if she wanted him to leave the house that night. Amanda said it wasn't necessary, that they could organize it in the coming days. He then grabbed his phone, went to the girls' room, looked at them sleeping, and returned to the couch with a pillow in hand. Amanda stood still in the hallway, as if wanting to say something, but didn't speak. She turned around and went to the bedroom. That night, Daniel barely slept. His mind spun with questions that would never have answers. But one certainty was already forming. This separation would be anything but simple. And as much as he had accepted it with maturity, deep down, something told him Amanda still had no idea of the consequences her choices would bring. The next morning, everything seemed the same, but the house already carried a different weight. Daniel made coffee, cooked pancakes as he usually did on Sundays, and called the girls with his usual sweet voice. Amanda sat at the table as if the previous day had been just a nightmare. The girls talked about his mind spun with questions, school a group project, and laughed about an inside joke between them that normally sounded cruel. Daniel responded, smiled, but inside everything was noise. He looked at Amanda trying to figure out where she was. Her body was there, but her mind seemed miles away. Each response from her came automatically, like someone following a script. When the girls went upstairs to get ready, he seized the moment. He asked if they could talk about the details of the separation. Amanda nodded. They sat on the couch. Daniel had already thought of. They sat on the couch, several possibilities during the night. He suggested looking for a small apartment close to work. That way, he could save time on traffic and have more availability to see the girls. Amanda agreed, saying it seemed fair. He talked about weekly visits, proposing to keep Wednesdays and Sundays as sacred days to be with the daughters. She just agreed without much enthusiasm. It was as if everything was part of a plan she had already accepted long before the conversation began. Daniel then touched on a delicate point, finances. He feared the divorce would they discussed Bill Stern into a money war. But Amanda was practical. She said she didn't want to take anything from him, just what was necessary to maintain the girls' stability. They discussed bills, credit cards, school expenses, health insurance, extracurricular activities. Each topic was a reminder that they were dividing the end of Astery, not just a life. The conversation flowed almost politely, but Daniel's heart ached with every new decision they had to make. They discussed the car, which was in both their names. Amanda suggested it stay with her since he would be working close to home and could walk or bike. Daniel agreed, though they had to make knew that car carried more than utility. It was the first big purchase they made together. Amanda also mentioned the help she would have from Chloe both legally and emotionally. He bit his tongue. He had a lot to say about this friend who suddenly appeared as the voice of reason, but he chose to hold back. Any strong reaction would give Amanda the argument that he was impulsive, that he couldn't accept the decision, that he was making things difficult. When Amanda got up to put away the dishes, Daniel went to the girls' room. He opened the door carefully. He saw the two of them. He returned to the organizing their backpacks, laughing at each other. The younger one put a bow in the older sister's hair and said she wanted to be just like her. He had to leave quickly. The tightness in his chest was too much. He returned to the living room, sat down, and put his hands over his eyes. He didn't cry, but stayed there motionless for a few minutes. When Amanda came back, he composed himself. He said they needed to decide when and how to tell the girls. Amanda suggested waiting a few more days. She said they were still organizing everything. Daniel disagreed. He thought it was wrong to keep it a secret. The girls would sense the change in the air, notice absences, comings and goings, and that would only create confusion. Amanda then suggested the following weekend. Enough time to think about the right words. Later, when the girls went to the movies with their grandmother, Daniel decided to clean out some drawers. Going through his papers, he found an old notebook. It was an improvised diary where he used to jot down thoughts, grocery lists, and even travel ideas. On impulse, he wrote down names. He started with acquaintances, women who once showed some interest. The school psychologist, the bookstore manager, a colleague from his old office. Without thinking, he wrote Natalie's name. As soon as he finished, he ran his pen over the name of his sister-in-law, covering each letter, as if trying to erase his own guilt. He closed the notebook and hid it at the bottom of the drawer. It didn't mean anything. It was just a way to show himself that the world hadn't ended. It was a pathetic gesture, but it helped him breathe. That night, Amanda came back from the supermarket. She brought ice cream for the girls, as she often did when she wanted to please them. He approached and asked. Daniel watched her trying to maintain a normality that no longer existed. When she went to put the groceries away, he approached and asked if everything was okay. Amanda responded with a weak smile. She said yes. Daniel then commented on the division of household chores. He said he would keep paying the bills, but that she should also take on some responsibilities. Amanda got irritated. She said he was being insensitive, that she worked too, that it wasn't fair for him to act like he was being more generous. The argument was short but intense. Daniel preferred to end it. The argument was short but intense. There. He said he didn't want to fight. He was just trying to organize things so no one got hurt too badly. The next day, Daniel woke up earlier. He made coffee and went out to look for an apartment. He visited 3 places, talked to 2 real estate agents, and found a simple studio 5 blocks from work. Nothing special, but enough to start. He signed the rental agreement and scheduled the move for 2 weeks later. When he returned home, Amanda was on the couch with the girls watching a movie. He entered quietly, went to the bedroom, and started packing his clothes into boxes. It was strange doing that without tears. It was strange doing that without tears. It was as if the morning had begun before the goodbye. Amanda passed by the door, stopped for a second, but continued without saying a word. That night, while Daniel was reviewing emails on his phone, he received a message from an old college friend. The friend said he had heard about the divorce through Chloe, that the news had spread too fast. Daniel simply typed, "It's true." When he turned off the light, he realized he'd been the last to know about his own story. Amanda had already told her friends, already had a support network set up, plans made, options open. He was simply typed "it's true" still at the beginning, trying to figure out how to keep living a life he no longer recognized as his own. Daniel scheduled a day with Amanda to tell the girls. He didn't want to stretch Thessalon's any longer. The girls already noticed the changes. The older one started asking why he left so early and came home so late. The younger one slept poorly, dreaming of confusing things. They sat together in the living room, the 4 of them. Amanda held the younger daughter's hand, and Daniel did the same with the older one. With a firm but soft voice, he explained that Dad would be living somewhere else for a while, that both of the older one cried them still loved them deeply, that none of what was happening was their fault. Amanda tried to add, saying the 2 adults needed to think about the future. The girls listened in silence. The older one cried softly. The younger one asked if it was because of a fight. Daniel denied it, saying it wasn't because of a fight, but because of hard choices. After the conversation, they hugged both girls tightly. Amanda went upstairs with him, spending some time in the room. Daniel stayed seated alone, unable to get up. Inside, he felt like he had lost. Daniel stayed seated alone, something that might never return whole. The next day, he moved into the small apartment he had found near work. It was simple with makeshift furniture and the smell of fresh paint. He carried 2 suitcases, a box of books, and a picture frame of the girls. He spent the day organizing the basics, trying to occupy his mind. When he stopped, he looked around and realized the silence. A silence that didn't bring peace, but a new kind of loneliness. For the first time in 2 decades, he slept in a bed without Amanda nearby. No sound of footsteps in the hallway. No Amanda showed up at his apartment louder from the girls in the next room. That night hurt more than the day of the divorce request. A few days later, Amanda showed up at his apartment unexpectedly. She didn't send a message. She just knocked on the door with puffy eyes, looking like she had gone through hours of tears that didn't fix anything. She asked to talk. Daniel was tired, but he made space. She came in, sat on the couch, and after a long silence, confessed. She told him about Logan, said she thought she was in love, that she believed he was a chance for a fresh start. A kind, mature, intelligent man. She said the meeting started by chance, after a conversation with Chloe and Thatton. Recent months they had seen each other frequently. Daniel listened to everything without reacting. The name Logan didn't surprise him. He had already suspected. Amanda tried to justify herself. She said Logan promised to leave his wife, promised a new life. But after she filed for divorce, had disappeared, stopped responding to messages, started treating her like a Logan promised to leave mistake. He has 2 young children and a wife, who upon learning about the affair threatened to expose everything. Daniel stayed silent, not out of coldness, but because words no longer seemed useful. She tried to explain more, saying she felt humiliated, betrayed, that Chloe had distanced herself, that co-workers were talking, that Natalie had reprimanded her firmly. She said she lost control of her own life, that everything had collapsed, and that now she realized how blind she had been. She hoped Daniel would say Amanda stuttered something, anything to ease her guilt, but he just asked, "Do you still love him?" Amanda stuttered. She said she no longer knew what she felt, that she only knew she was ashamed. Daniel got up, went to the kitchen, and brought her a glass of water. He handed it to her silently. He sat beside her and spoke calmly. He said he understood loneliness, frustration, the desire for something new. But while she fed illusions with Logan, he was doing everything to maintain the emotional structure of the girls. He said she broke something he spent years building. Amanda cried. Amanda cried. She said she never imagined the pain would come back at her with such force. Daniel listened to everything Amanda had to say that night. She talked about Logan, The empty promises. The shame after being discarded like a mistake. She cried while trying to find in his words some relief, a helping hand to pull her out of the hole she dug herself. But Daniel was exhausted. He waited for her to finish, and then without raising his voice simply said she needed to leave. He explained that he couldn't help anymore, that he was already taking care of the girls, the new apartment, his own mental health. Amanda tried to resist, and carrying her pain too was too much. Amanda tried to resist. She said she needed someone, but Daniel remained firm. You chose to leave. Now you need to deal with what that means. She stood still for a moment, as if expecting him to back down, but he didn't. Amanda then grabbed her bag with trembling hands and left with guilt-filled eyes. 2 days later, Amanda returned. She said she had left a code in his apartment. Daniel let her come in quickly to grab it. While looking for the code on one of the shelves, she saw the old notebook. The old notebook one where Daniel jotted down random thoughts, loose sentences, tasks. Without thinking much, she flipped through it and stopped at the page with the list. It was names of women. Some she knew, others she had never heard of. But there, among them all, she saw one that made the ground disappear. Natalie, her own sister. Amanda felt her stomach turn. She closed the notebook forcefully, turned to Daniel with wide eyes and contained rage. Are you serious? You made a list of women to date, including my sister, she asked. And you know, other voice faltering between shock and danger. Daniel looked at Amanda coldly. Yes, I wrote that. And you know what? From the moment you asked for a divorce, I stopped owing you any explanation. She tried to say it was Lowe that had played the victim while acting like a jerk, but he didn't let it slide. You got involved with a married man. Lied to him, lied to the girls, destroyed everything we built, and now you come here demanding accountability for a list written in a notebook. Amanda grew even more nervous. She said he always acted. Daniel stepped closer, superior, ethical, and now behaved like a vengeful teenager. Daniel stepped closer, looked her in the eye, and calmly said, You left me for another man, and now you want to control who I can be with. If I want to date your sister, I will, because you lost the right to have an opinion about my life when you turned your back on our family. She turned pale. She stayed silent for a few seconds, not knowing what to say. Tears came before words. Amanda tried to respond, but her voice wouldn't come out. She grabbed the coat, hurried past the door, and left crying. She grabbed the coat, hurried descending the stairs. She started to realize the truth she had avoided facing. While she thought she controlled everything, Daniel had already freed himself from guilt. He closed the door calmly, went back to the couch, and left the notebook there, abandoned. What once seemed like a simple distraction was now a definitive line. The marriage no longer existed. Forgiveness perhaps didn't either. But for the first time in a long time, he felt exactly where he needed Toby, at peace with his own choices. The 90 days passed with the weight of an entire lifetime. Amanda couldn't bear keeping the 90 days past everything inside anymore. The lonely nights, the silence after the girls went to bed, the absence of messages, the lack of Logan, who had disappeared as if he never existed. With a broken heart, she arranged a meeting with Daniel. They met at a discreet cafe. Amanda was nervous, fidgeting with her hands. And when Daniel arrived, she got straight to the point. She said she had thought a lot, that everything had been a mistake, that the divorce was an impulsive reaction, and that deep down she still loved him. Daniel listened in silence, without interrupting. When she finished, Amanda was speechless, simply replied firmly, We'll meet tomorrow at the office to sign the paperwork. Amanda was speechless. He added, I'm not interested in going back. Flustered, she asked, Are you seeing someone? Daniel gave a half smile. I don't owe you any explanations anymore, but no, I'm not. She lowered her gaze. Her voice trembled. And you? Do you think I'm still with Logan? He looked directly into her eyes and asked, Are you? Amanda took a deep breath, trying to contain herself. He disappeared and the tears streamed down. For the first time, the next day, Amanda understood that she had lost everything, and that Daniel, that calm man who always listened to her, was now at peace with the decision to move on. The next day, as planned, they met at the lawyer's office. Everything went quickly. Formalities, signatures, some documents read with detachment. When the last paper was signed, Amanda looked at Daniel, hoping for some sign. He simply thanked the lawyer, put his copy of the documents away, and said goodbye. Amanda sat there for a while, staring at the sheet that officially declared the end of what was once a family. She wanted to say the following months were quiet something, but decided to keep the pain to herself. She knew no words would change anything anymore. The following months were quiet. Daniel continued seeing the girls frequently, as agreed. Wednesday nights were pizza and movie nights. Sundays park and ice cream. He made sure to be present, not out of obligation, but out of love. It was with them that he felt whole. It was with his daughters that he rediscovered simple joy. the kind he had forgotten existed. Until a few months later, Daniel sent a message to Amanda. He said Daniel sent a message to Amanda he wanted to talk to her, asked her to come to his apartment alone. Amanda found it strange, hesitated, but went. Deep down, she thought maybe he was willing to try again, that maybe things could go back to the way they were. When she rang the doorbell, the door opened, and who answered was her sister Natalie. Amanda was in shock, eyes wide, body frozen. Natalie opened the door wider and simply said, "Come in." Amanda walked silently to the couch and sat down. Daniel appeared shortly after and sat next to Natalie. His expression was Amanda was in shock calm. Amanda couldn't say a word. Daniel took the lead. He said he knew how hard this might seem, but he wanted to be direct. He told her that he and Natalie were together, that it wasn't casual, that they were dating. Amanda didn't respond. Her face turned completely pale. Tears began streaming down without her blinking. She got up slowly, opened the door, and left. Descending the stairs, she started crying loudly. Not because of betrayal, because she started crying loudly wasn't any, but because of the reality she refused to accept. The world she destroyed, someone else rebuilt, and it wasn't her. Months passed. Summer came, and with it, the kids' vacation. Amanda, absent-mindedly scrolling through social media, stopped at a post from her sister. A photo, Natalie, Daniel, and the two daughters smiling, playing by a lake. They looked like a family. Amanda stared at that image, as if it were a window to a past she herself burned. Without the strength to comment or like it, she just lowered her head and whispered for no one to hear, "What have I done?" Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.